Waymo might not be as safe as you think. This is a very interesting thing that's been going on, and with Waymo getting more popular by the day, this could be a bigger issue, especially in the future. Now, first off, I'm on Waymo's site right now, and you can see under their safety tab on one end, in their first 25 million miles, compared to a human driving the same distance in the cities where we operate, there were 81% fewer airbag deployment crashes, 72% fewer injury-causing crashes, and 57% fewer police-reported crashes. So this is good, that as it shows, Waymo can be a lot safer when it comes to crashes and injuries and that kind of stuff when it comes to driving. On the other end, this is an interesting article and something that's getting a bit more popular in an unfortunate way, is that Waymo is not perfect. There's a lot of limitations to Waymo, and I think Waymo, gotta be honest, I've taken them a lot here in Los Angeles, are great. There's a lot of good features, but Waymo drives a bit safe, a bit too safe. I mean, remember, it is a completely autonomous vehicle after all, that is self-driving, so there are some limitations, and a new report is shedding light on something we've wondered about: safety concerns for robotaxi services, Waymo. And this report, which is out of San Francisco, concentrates on Waymo. And what it comes down to is this: some people in San Francisco have been around them to know how to mess with them, even hacking the cars. I even saw, I think it was one YouTube video, one article about one person who found ways to kind of like trick the Waymo by putting specific lines in front of it or cones or doing certain things to kind of hack or mess up the Waymo's algorithm, right? It is a computer after all. It is an algorithm. It's a self-driving car. And at first, it's kind of interesting maybe seeing these videos of funky ways for people to kind of mess with the car or hack it. But here's what gets a little more tricky, is that it could be something as simple as a cyclist weaving in front of a Waymo, or pedestrians putting cones in front of or on the hood of the vehicle, halting its progress temporarily. And the unfortunate and really negative and potentially scary thing about this is that it in turn leaves people riding inside almost defenseless, right? Because think about it, you're stopped, you can't do anything. And unnamed Waymo riders shared with the newspaper their experiences, including a pedestrian trying to open one robotaxi while holding a knife. The vehicle stopped at a red light. The victims in these cases have expressed how frustrating it is knowing a human driver could just take off on a side street, speed off, or engage in other evasive maneuvers, to remove them from potential danger. And I think this is the tricky thing. It's like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. A Waymo tries to drive as safe as possible. Like when I've driven Waymos, one thing in case you didn't know, is a Waymo would typically take way longer than an Uber or Lyft driver. That's a bit of a con when it comes to Waymo versus Uber and Lyft. Yeah, maybe it's safer in terms of crashes, but it drives ultra safe. Like a yellow light is pretty much a red light when it comes to Waymo, and it drives super safe. And the issue is, with it trying to drive too safe, it puts, like, say, the passenger more at risk if, like, say, there's somebody trying to get in the vehicle or attack them or whatever, right? And any other human driver, if, like, say, you were pulled and some guy was coming at you with a knife, would just drive off. Not a Waymo, though, right? Granted, I do think this might get better. Might as well say that. I'm not trying to, like, throw a bunch of shade or hate towards Waymo. I do think it's a great platform and it's a great service. But this is something that I think will get better. However, it's still an issue, right? And going on here that harassment and people trying to get into robotaxis that are occupied have been extremely rare events. So I will say that. This is not happening all the time. But here, going down here, that this is one article that's posted, warning to women in SF. I love Waymo, but this is scary. 2 men stopped in front of the car and demanded, maybe X this out, demanded that I give them my number. It keeps pulling up. Oh, this is the, right here, looks like. Here it is. It left me stuck in the car as it was stalled in the street. It only lasted a few minutes, and kind of ridiculous, right? That they were just stopped in front of it, and I might mute this because I don't know. But you could see, like, they just kept stopping the Waymo, right? And any other human driver would have just been like, dude, get out of the street. Or they would have banged a Yui. They would have done something, right? And going down here that, one woman who was followed home by men allegedly catcalling her and her sister when she had the Waymo taxi said she didn't get the other vehicle's license plate. When she asked Waymo for the information when it comes to the robotaxi's cameras, the company declined to provide that. In addition, she panicked when that was happening and couldn't figure out how to reroute the vehicle so it wouldn't lead the men following her home. It says that can apparently be done through the phone app, although we don't know how quickly or easily it can be accomplished. I didn't know that. I've used Waymo before. I didn't know that you can actually pick different routes. Maybe that's a new feature. I've not seen that on the app. Personally, I'm just saying that. And I will say this. I know they mentioned here in the article perhaps an emergency SOS rerouting option available with a single press of a button would help in those scenarios. Potentially. I think that could potentially be a huge help. I think that'd be pretty easy to implement. I know Uber and Lyft does have that as well. So I think that could be potentially a good solution to this. I think maybe there's other solutions as well. I think this is the biggest thing. One common theme that runs throughout the report are women who say they've used robotaxis since rideshare drivers have made them feel unsafe or uncomfortable, right? Being in a vehicle alone provides them with the perception of greater security. That definitely makes a lot of sense if you have had issues with rideshare drivers. And I hate to say it, there's been rideshare drivers who have been caught and who've gotten in trouble for, let's see, being too pushy, for even sexual allegations and a lot more. And being in a vehicle alone provides them with a perception of greater security unless someone outside the car presents a perceived threat. Suddenly in that situation, it seems like being alone isn't so preferable, which is sadly ironic. Now, being honest, I do want to mention right away that these situations are unbelievably rare. And I do think this will get better. I think it's one of those situations, like I said, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That I can see if you're somebody who has been in a situation with a rideshare driver. And I know people who have. I know people who have been in situations where they were inebriated in an Uber or Lyft. They were taking it to be safe and responsible. They were under the influence. And the rideshare driver started either sexually assaulting them, or they started saying some creepy things. And they're like, okay, I don't want to say no. I want to say yes. I'm trapped in their car. And it becomes a situation where they're like, oh, shoot, now I'm drunk. And this guy or this girl, right, it can happen in any situation, is now coming on to me and in this whole thing. There's been a lot of cases, as we know. There's a lot of amazing rideshare drivers out there. And I will say most rideshare drivers, like 99%, if you look at these statistics, are great. But you do have that 1%. You do have that handful of rideshare drivers that kind of make and give other rideshare drivers a bad rap. And it's unfortunate. It does happen, right? It is still uncommon, even Ubers and Lyfts, but it can still happen. And I can see that for some people, they're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a Waymo instead. There's no one else in the car. Therefore, I feel more safe that I'm alone in the vehicle. If, like I said, I've been drinking, especially, or if I'm under the influence and I just want to be alone. Now, this is an interesting thing because what kind of pops into my head is with Waymo driving so safe, it will definitely try to do the best thing possible, right? So if two people are standing in front of the car asking you for your number, or if two people are standing in front of the car, God forbid, let's say it's someone with a knife and they're not trying to get your number, but they're actually instead trying to get your wallet or something like this happening, this can cause a lot of other issues. Now, I will say, I do feel like this will get better. I have to be honest. From my perspective, I think this will get better. Waymo is getting pretty scarily smart. I mentioned this in a video. I did a video vlog. It's somewhere on this channel. All my Waymo videos are listed below in a playlist if you click that link. And in that playlist, I have a video of it's like a vlog, the first Waymo I ever took. And in that vlog, you can see it, that the Waymo goes, it stops, there's a pedestrian, and the pedestrian went like this, it kind of waved. And then at that point, the Waymo kept going. And I was like, wait a minute. It's not just driving. It's not just like doing all the traffic signals and turns and everything. But it's like understanding that human gesture, at least I think, who knows, maybe just, I don't know, but I'm like, that blew my mind. So I do think at some point, I can see that a Waymo, if it understands there are two people, there's a difference between two people, of course, walking, and the Waymo has to stop to let them walk past you. And there's another situation of, let's say, two people standing in front of the Waymo, halting it, trying to do something to you, right? And in addition, I can see Waymo starting to implement security features in terms of like an emergency SOS. I know Uber and Lyft has already done that. I think this can definitely potentially help in the sense that if you implement it, it can definitely create a better safe space. If, let's say, something like this does happen, you hit a button and it instantly calls the police and brings them right to you if, let's say, you are in an emergency situation. One thing I think that's kind of this odd, kind of tricky thing that things are never going to be perfect is the fact that since there's no one else in the car with you, you have another human, I think, to direct you. Now, at some point, maybe in a few years even, because technology is moving very fast, especially in the AI space, if you look at like ChatGPT and everything, and Claude and OpenAI and everything with like even Suno and Udio when it comes to AI music generators. There's a lot of stuff happening in the AI world. Maybe in a few years, Waymo gets good enough to understand, okay, this is a threat. Let's get the F out as quick as possible, just as a human would. So I do feel like Waymo itself, especially with reports coming out like this, could start to implement new features. But that is another thing. For example, if, like, say, someone comes at an Uber or Lyft with a knife, either A, the driver knows, hey, I got to get the F out. Forget trying to drive safely. Forget the laws, the traffic laws. We just need to leave because our lives are in danger. Or two, you have another person with you. God forbid something happens. You have someone there, hopefully, to have your back and stuff like that, right? So this is kind of a pros and cons situation. As I do understand some people who've, like, say, had issues with rideshare drivers saying, you know what, I'm just going to take a Waymo. I just feel safer not being in the car with anybody, that I can be super hammered if I want to, or be super inebriated or whatever the situation is. You don't have to be, but just in general, I don't have to have the potential worry. But now it's almost like the opposite of Waymo, that with a Uber or Lyft, if you've had that happen to you, you're worried about people in the car. Now it's almost the opposite. You have to worry about people outside of the car when it comes to Waymo more, if, like, say, they can mess with a car like this. And with Waymo, I think being pretty good. I gotta be honest, Waymo's pretty good, but of course it's still limited, right? It's still an algorithm, it's still a computer, and it's getting pretty dang good, but it's still not good enough where, there's a bunch of different ways to hack it. Like I mentioned, there's been a bunch of videos that's made about this, where someone puts a bunch of weird lines, like I mentioned, and the Waymo kind of like locks up or glitches up. There's a bunch of ways to kind of mess with that algorithm, mess with the self-driving feature of a Waymo. And some people might do it for fun. And I think most people, like, say, when I've seen these YouTube videos, do it because they're like programmers or because they're big into technology, and they do it for fun, for kind of like a fun YouTube video to get views and stuff like that. But of course, there are other people saying, hey, what if we use this to kind of get stuff out of people, to exploit people, to take advantage of people? And that is something that seems to be happening as we speak. Very, very unfortunate. I mean, very, very unfortunate. And it stinks. There's no other way to word that this is now a huge issue where some people are getting into Waymo thinking they're going to be safe, and they do it to be safe, and now the opposite happens, right? However, like I said, I do think this is something that, one, like I said, is super rare, extremely rare, these kind of situations. But two, I do think Waymo will start working on this. I mean, there's two things that Waymo should start implementing. One is just better algorithms, right? That if there is an emergency, if something's going on, to get out of there. And in addition to that, I guess like a sub point one, is to get better with the routing feature, like I mentioned. It is interesting that they mentioned this in the article, that you can, I guess, change the routes or reroute it or choose a different path. I've not seen that in the app, and maybe that's a new feature. I've not taken a Waymo in maybe about a month, so maybe in the past month, maybe that is a new thing. Tough to say exactly, maybe a month and a half, I think, or 2 months I've been taking Waymo. I can't remember exactly. Maybe that's a new thing, right? And the second big point is to put in some emergency feature. I think this is a big thing as well, that, like, say, if something happens around the vehicle, there's people outside, something like this is going down, there's some way for you to call the police, call like emergency SOS, something along those lines. Because although Waymo right now is unbelievably safe when it comes to injuries and crashes, and that's huge, that's an absolutely huge thing. Of course, you never know what happens when it comes to, again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, that with the good intention of Waymo, trying to make it a safe space. And it is very safe in a lot of ways when it comes to injuries and everything. There's now a new issue that's arising. And like I said in the intro, as Waymo continues to get more popular, like right now it's really just in San Francisco or SF, Austin, Los Angeles, and Phoenix. As Waymo continues to get bigger in these areas, I just mentioned that Waymo, now anyone in LA can order it. Before, it's a wait list, or you need to get someone's referral code. Now anyone can order Waymo in LA. And as Waymo continues to spread, not just in LA and get more popular, but in other cities as well, maybe they start adding more to the list. This is something I think that maybe they should start addressing sooner rather than later, and I think they will be. That way, when it starts releasing and gets being put in all these other cities, we have safety at its highest peak as possible.